Yo, welcome back to the No Butcher Podcast. It's Conklin.
Yo, what's up, it's Kai?
And yeah, man, we're back at it again with another video, man. And, this time you see the jerseys. We're talking about, NBA basketball, right? And, what better way? The season is about to be almost done with like just a few weeks or so left. So, we talked about our MVP standings or ladder, a few weeks back. And, I think it's a good time to just refresh and say, any updates on the MVP ladder from us. Well, with that said, take it away, Kai.
Um, okay, so if I have to, be honest, I do not remember what my first top five was.
Yeah.
But um, going from number five to number one, starting out with number five, I have Jason Tatum.
Mm.
Number four, I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Number three, I have Luka Doncic. Number two, I have Nikola Jokic, and then at the number one spot, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's number one. In my opinion, he's the MVP.
Interesting. Okay, then I guess like my five. So for me, I got Jason Tatum at five.
Mm-hmm.
At number four, I got Giannis. Number three, I got Shea. Number two, I got Jokic, and one I got Luka.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I guess like first I think the main difference between our lists is
Mm-hmm.
definitely the Giannis one where I had him more towards the bottom of the five,
Mm-hmm.
but you had him at the very top. So explain why you got him at number five. I mean number one. My fault.
I mean, with Giannis, it's like okay, so some season stats. He's averaging 30.7 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, 6.4 assists per game, which is a career high for him so far. 1.5 steals and 1 block per game. So he's averaging almost about 3.5 stocks per game, right? Like when you talk about the MVP, I feel like you just have to talk about both sides of the ball, and he is the best two-way player in the league. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he's in my opinion, he should be in conversation for um defensive player of the year, right? If his total for the total year, if his team's defense was better, you know, he would wholeheartedly be in conversation for defensive player of the year. Um, Another thing, he's shooting 61% from the field. That's fucking crazy, right? 61% has him at seventh in the league in field goal percentage. And the difference between him and all the guys that are ahead of him is he's taking 18 shots a game. The next closest is Jared Allen with 10 shots a game. So he's almost taking double the amount of shots as the next closest guy. So him putting up these amount of shots and being this efficient again, and then doing on both sides of the ball right now, they're second in the East. They have the second best. They're tied for the third best record at home. And in the last 20 games, the Bucks they have a defensive rating of 113.1, which would be tied for 13th in the league in defense. Right? We're talking about a team that really does. I mean, I wouldn't say they have bad defenders, but with the loss of Drew Holiday, we saw how that defense changed. But in these last 20 games, they've kind of started to play a little bit more close to the Milwaukee Bucks basketball that we're used to. I just feel like again, just the impact on both the offensive side and the defensive side. He's in my opinion, he's the clear cut MVP.
And yeah, man. I mean, all the things you said is fair. It's fair, man. Like you can for sure say like when you look at the Bucks, the main guy you look towards to is Giannis. You don't look at Dame. Yeah, this is Giannis's team, and it always
Yes.
has been, right? And so, like, I definitely see your standpoint where, like, he's getting it. Not only is he getting it done on a defensive side, he's also doing it on the offensive side, but with insane efficiency, right? Like 18
Yeah.
shots, it's like shooting at like what you said, like 61,
61.
62%, 61%, and that's crazy,
Mhm.
right? I'll give that to you, right? But I just think that the reason why I had him a little bit lower on my list is just because the impact. It's hard. It's hard because like
Mhm.
I feel like when we're talking about who's higher or lower, I'm not really saying that this is a big gap. It's like
Mhm.
very small marginal like things, right?
Mhm.
And I think it just depends on what you like, honestly. right?
Yeah.
What you like, what you see, and stuff like that. But I
Mm.
just think, although you can't say the Bucks have been playing better, I feel like they haven't been playing Bucks basketball as of yet, right? I'll only speak about this just because I know I have a friend who's a Bucks fan, and he just says that like it's very inconsistent. Like one day you playing like this, then the next game you playing a whole completely different way, right? And I just think that, and obviously it's not because of Giannis, right? Giannis is
No,
doing his
no,
thing. Like
no.
like don't get me wrong, Giannis is doing his thing, right? It's more so
Yeah.
of a team thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's and for me, that's the reason why I don't his team's inconsistency I don't use as a hindrance to him because the fact of the matter is Giannis has been the only consistent thing on the Bucks this entire season. You feel
Yeah.
me? So, and even with again, even with his entire team being inconsistent, he still has them at the number 2 seed in the East, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, obviously the Celtics are going on this crazy run right now, but if things would have happened a little differently, it's crazy how you would expect for all of these things to happen and for them to be, hovering around the 4 seed, the 5 seed, but they have a pretty strong grip on the 2nd seed in the East, and it's not the East is not as strong as some of the teams out west, but I feel like sometimes like the proof is in the pudding, right? And I feel like as inconsistent as the Bucks may be, again they still found themselves at a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean, not come on, number two seed. That's nothing to
No.
like think about and stuff like that. And so it's like all the, like I'm not saying that I like very hardly
Mhm.
disagree of him being number one. Like I said, any honestly, you can make a case for any one of these five to go
Oh
to number
yeah,
one, right?
100%.
Like everybody has their own like case, right?
Mhm.
But I think it's just a matter of fact of like how you see the game and like honestly like it's just your opinion, right?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
So and I don't think there's no wrong answer per se unless you say some outlandish name or whatever,
Mhm.
right? But I don't know. Like for me personally, like I just don't think this is Giannis's MVP year.
Okay.
When you compare it to other guys who's having like either similar years or even better years, you could argue,
Mhm.
right? And so
Mhm.
let's get into that a little bit. Let's get into that a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And like for me, like talk about like a guy in Shea, right? I think we came the last time we talked about the MVP ladder
Mhm.
to take a young team to become a second seed, almost a first seed in the next year, right?
Mhm.
It's just insane, right? It goes to show how much the team has grown, how much he's grown, and how much leadership he's like he's installed to his own like his team,
Mhm.
right? And so the evolution of him is like very very promising for that Thunder team, right?
Oh,
Because
100%.
we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're going to playoffs, but I'll say this: like the regular season has been really, really, really good for them, but
Mhm.
we haven't seen them in playoffs. We haven't,
No, no,
right?
and we'll definitely do video once the kind of the playoff bracket gets
Mhm.
gets solidified. But here's an interesting stat about Shea. It was actually kind of funny, before our recording, we were kind of
Mhm.
getting our notes together, and I kind of like burst out. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like that's real? So Shea this season has 50 games of 30 points or more.
Yep.
That's fucking crazy. He's played 70 games this season. So he's only had 20 games all season where he has not scored at least 30 points. That's insane, right? Like
Yeah.
similar to what I said about Giannis, just consistency, man. Like,
Mhm.
and I wish I would have found this stat, but I'm curious of how many of those games were like exactly 31 points, because
Uh
I feel
huh.
like he has to have like some type of record for getting exactly 31 points in a game. It's every single time I check his stats, he has 31. But
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting, right? Because a lot of times when it comes to these awards, right, for MVP, a lot of it is narrative based in terms of
Mhm.
expectations versus reality, right? So
Mhm.
people weren't really expecting a lot of OKC going into the season. So in a way, it helped Shea's case compared to a Giannis, right? But
Mhm.
when you really look at it, right? Because everybody says, and I agree, OKC is having an amazing year. They're only 5 games ahead of the Bucks in terms of record.
Yeah.
And that's what we said about the Bucks being so inconsistent. They're only 5 games back of, if they were obviously in the West, of having the number one seed. So
Mhm.
again, when you really start to compare some of these numbers, I feel like that's where narrative kind of creeps in, or again, expectation versus reality, right? Where the
Mhm.
Bucks had way higher expectations than OKC Thunder did come into the
Mhm.
season. So even though they're 5 games back of OKC, that feels like a letdown.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes, and again, I feel like sometimes when you have expectations coming into the season, it could either hurt you or help you. And I feel
Yep.
like in this case, in terms of how most people view it, that hurts Giannis. For me,
Mhm.
it honestly amplifies it. The fact that, again, you're only 5 games back of some of the quote unquote best teams in basketball, and Giannis has been the steady force this entire season. You know, he's played 68 games,
Mhm.
right? So he has not missed a lot of games. I think what are we at? Like game like
S-
70,
Like 75, I'd
maybe like
say.
75, something
Yeah.
around that. So he's missed literally about a handful of games all season,
Yeah.
right? For a guy that is as physical as him, is always banging in the paint. He's
Mhm.
been he's been an Iron Man, really. For most of
Mhm.
his career, Giannis has been an Iron Man. So I feel like
Mhm.
this is one of those years that, like the way I formulated my MVP is not necessarily the betting odds, who I would put money on
Yeah.
to win. But how I'm looking at it is, if I had a seat at the table, if I had a ballot, an MVP ballot, who would I give my ballot to? And, I would give it to Giannis. But Shea, I have him at number 4. But like you said, like all these guys, the
Yeah.
gap is not large. You know what I mean? Like it
Mhm.
really comes down to, what you value more. Um, you know, certain moments, right? Like,
Mhm.
for example, I have Luka at 3, but he's leading the league in points per game. The Mavs are 9-1 in their last 10,
Mhm.
right? They're 4 games back of they're 2 games back of the 4 seed in West, right? Where I'm not gonna lie, if the Mavs finish the season with the 4 seed, right, compared to finishing the season with the 6 seed,
Mhm.
in my opinion, that might shake up my entire MVP list, because
Mhm.
very similar to the Bucks, been up and down, consistent all season, but as we've kind of reached the end of the year, as you and I'm sure as you can see, you guys have started to hit your stride. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, the man scored 73 points in a game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you talk about MVP moments, I mean, if you just talk about an individual game, there's no game that was bigger than that, right? So, all these guys, man, like the NBA is mighty talented, but you know what? I'll let you gush about your guy, right? You have him at number 1. I'm curious why you have Luka as number 1 in your MVP ballot.
Yeah, man. Like, shoot, sticking on the point about him scoring what, like 71 points in a game, right? And funny enough, earlier today in the morning, right? I woke up, went to YouTube, right, and I was like, oh, I saw a clip from the new podcast that LeBron and JJ Redick are having, right? And what was the thing they was talking about? They was talking about Luka Doncic, man,
Mm-hmm.
talking about how he is slowly, or not fuck slowly, he is quickly like
Easy.
any other
Mm-hmm.
player. Next person is like at like that's insane. Talking about this man,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but here's the thing: when they played against Atlanta, Atlanta was like, you know what? We'll we won't blitz them. Like, we'll just play how it is, then just switch. Nope, 71 dropped on him, right?
Yep.
And so I just think that out of any season, like I think he had it coming ever since his rookie season, right? Where it's like, okay, he might be he's getting close. He's
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the odds, or when you look at like people talking about in the news circles, like who's going to be before the season starts. It's like who's going to be like the MVP of the season, right? Luka Doncic is always a name floating around, man. He's always a name floating around, right?
Oh yeah.
And talking about a guy that not only does he score the points, he also gets his teammates involved. And I
Yes.
hate, and I the one thing I very very hate, like, is the narrative of that he's ball hogging. Like, I don't like that take in the sense that, like, yes, he is having the ball a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
you know it's the matter of fact what is he doing with it,
Yeah.
right? And I think for me, it's like he is deferring more to Kyrie. He is looking for his teammates first before scoring, right? And I just think that the team right now, as we are hitting our stride. We're slowly seeing that we're slowly becoming the team that we like, the identity of our team, right?
Yes.
And the one thing I've wanted to see this season from Luka that I think that could help his MVP case was his
Mm-hmm.
defense.
Yep.
His defense, right?
Yep.
And one thing I've obviously he's not the best. He's still not the best defender in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? Guess what? We don't need him to be the best defender in the world,
No.
right? It's when you talk about defense, right? It's all about effort. It's all about
Mm-hmm.
the effort, right? It's how much you try, how much you hustle on loose balls and all that, because all that shit counts, because that lets your team know that, yo, I'm fighting for my life every single day, right? I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win, man, right? And you know, there dare I say there's like shades of, like, a LeBron early on in his career, right? You could say that the path is similar. You could say, right? But I just think that with how the Mavs are going, and obviously maybe Luka shouldn't be number one right now, right? Maybe I'm projecting a little bit more. Maybe I'm getting a little excited, right? And as I should, man. And I just think even if he's at maybe at best, right? Even if he is at five seed, right? What I think that would be the highest seed that he's ever had with the Mavs, right? I'm pretty sure,
Might be.
right? And it sucks because it's one of those things where you're like, it's kind of similar to Giannis, right? Like,
Mm.
you don't really like. It's more so of the team rather
The
than
team.
him, right?
Yes.
Because when you look at the Mavs, Luka has always been consistent. He's
Yes.
always getting his stats, his numbers, right? But
Mm.
sometimes his players around him is like, especially the players who before the trade that we made,
Mm.
were shitty. It was
Yes.
very shitty,
Yes.
man. Right? Like, you got Tim Hardaway Jr., who was like, we all know how I feel about his hit or miss on
Mm-hmm.
nights, right? And we got Kyrie, but sometimes Kyrie is in and out the lineup,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But as we've seen these past 20 games, right after the All Star break, we see what this team can be,
Mm-hmm.
right? No matter the point differential that we're down in the fourth quarter, we will find a way. We will. We will. And I trust that we will. Like, whether it's Luka, whether it's Kyrie, whether it's fucking Dante Exum, like,
Yeah,
it just goes.
it's like he had to, like, he sold his soul for that one Lakers game. He was just like never to be seen again. Like, he turned into
Yeah.
prime Steph Curry. That was fucking crazy to watch. Um, but I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. And fundamentally, when it comes to how I view the MVP, like, definitely record matters. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
if unless you're like having like a historic season, like, you gotta at least be like top four, right, in your conference, at least in my eyes. But again, I do value the individual more than the team generally, right? Like, just it's not just best player on best team equals MVP for me, right? I think
Right.
there's a little bit more nuance to it.
Mm-hmm.
But two things that you said that I wholeheartedly, I have some stats that back that up, right? Where they talk about, giving Luka like the ball hog title, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all that really comes from is that obviously Dallas runs a more heliocentric offense,
Yeah.
but the man is second in the league in assists.
Yeah.
So I feel like that argument is dead. The argument that Luka doesn't play defense. He's tied for
He's
seventh in the league in steals.
yeah.
So it's one of those things where, again, not everybody is going to, and not everybody can be this elite two-way player. They're very,
Yeah.
very hard to find, right? Because that's a lot of energy, right? To be your team's
Mm-hmm.
best offensive player and your team's best defensive player. That's very, very hard to do, right? But to be honest, that's what I value a lot about Giannis's game. But with Luka, I mean, this is a guy that can, walk out there and drop 40. You know what I mean? So a guy that can walk out there and drop 15 assists. Like anything you need him to do, he can do, right? So for me, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily say it's premature because he is playing at an MVP level. Um, Honestly, I feel like it's unfortunate the fact that he's playing right now in an era of the big man, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
because obviously he's been hurt, but Joel Embiid, right? Where the last 5 MVPs have all been big men.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like being a guard, whether it's a Shea, whether it's a Luka, you know what I mean? It's just this is just a hard era for kind of a guard to kind of crack that ceiling. But
Mm-hmm.
what is Luka, like 25? Like he has
25.
he has plenty of time to win an MVP, right? I vividly see in his career him winning at least 2 MVPs, right? Easy, at least 2 MVPs. So he has plenty of time to kind of quote unquote catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like right now he's just at the cusp, right? Like if the Mavs can end the season strong and then keep that momentum going into next season, I would argue he's probably the MVP favorite, right?
Mm.
Like, 26 years old. Again, if the Mavs are able to start the season how they ended the season, right, strong, I feel like he's gonna be the MVP front runner. But I just feel like this season, right, it's just a little bit too competitive at the top, right? And it's funny because not once have we talked about the guy that is actually leading all bets in MVP voting, and that's
Yeah.
who I have at number 2. Nikola Jokic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it was something that Candace Parker said on their broadcast that, in my opinion, that's just the epitome of Nikola Jokic. And she said if anybody besides Nikola Jokic were averaging these stats, they would be the clear-cut MVP, right? And I definitely, like, in my opinion, it's between Giannis and Jokic in my eyes of who the MVP is to me, right? Because, Jokic averaging 26.1 points per game, 12 and a half rebounds, almost 9 assists, one and a half steals, and a block per game. This is funny enough, this is the third highest points per game total Jokic has averaged in the season so far in his career. Um,
Mm.
and the Nuggets are 15-5 in their last 20. Right, they've been on a tear. Right now, they're at the number 3 seed in the West, but depending on that, I think they play one extra game than the Timberwolves or the Thunder. So depending on how that go, they can go right back to the number 1 seed. Where I definitely feel as though if the Nuggets are able to finish, the season as a number 1 seed, again, I might be singing a different tune as to who my MVP is, right?
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's just like it's funny, right? Because similar to a Jokic, similar to a Giannis, similar to a Luka, similar to a Shea, and like I said, number 5 Tatum. It's
Mm.
just model consistency, man.
Yep.
Every single day, there's no such thing as a bad Jokic game, right?
There
But
isn't. There
there's
isn't.
no such thing as a bad game for Nikola Jokic because he's either gonna drop a lot of points, he's gonna drop a lot of rebounds, or he's gonna drop a lot of assists. So a lot of times he drops a lot of all three, right?
Yeah.
Where as a defense, there's where we talk about unguardable. Jokic may be the most unguardable player in the NBA right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not necessarily in terms of stopping you from scoring, but stopping you from affecting the game. Because no matter
Mm.
what, he's going to affect the game every single play. Every
Mm-hmm.
single play. The entire game. Again, whether he's okay, I'm gonna take away his teammates. I'm gonna make him beat us. He'll drop 50 on you. All right,
Yeah.
we're not gonna let Jokic beat us. He has 21 assists. All right, we're gonna try to get back in transition. So okay, he has 25 rebounds. Like this is the issue, right? Like where there is no, and for a lot of these players, they can attest to this, but there is no Jokic stopper, right? Like
Yeah.
there's nobody in the league that you can put on him and they're gonna make it hard or whatever. Like we saw that last year with Anthony Davis, and all respect to AD, but Jokic just started hitting that dumbass fucking 3-point shot and it was over. It was over. It's not, if he's hitting that three, there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. There's nothing you
Yeah.
can do.
And man, like it's funny that you mentioned the term narrative,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in case the viewers don't know this, and even if maybe Kai doesn't even know this, right? But here's a little nugget for you guys. No pun intended. Um, you know, Jokic already has 2 MVPs, but he's back to
Mm-hmm.
back MVPs, right? If he gets the third one, he would
Mm-hmm.
be the fourth player to ever do it in NBA history. He'll be in the realm of Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Larry Bird. Those are the only 3 players to ever win 3 straight MVPs, man. And you talk about a guy in the era of basically the shooting era, right?
Wouldn't be 3 straight. And beat one last year.
Wait, what?
And beat one last year. Won the MVP last year. It wouldn't be 3 straight.
Did he?
Yeah.
No,
So,
because
but it,
like,
it would be 3 in 4 years. Because he won back to back, then Embiid won, then now
wait,
this
no,
season.
didn't Jokic win 21 and 2022?
Yeah, but 23 was Embiid. We're in 24.
No. This is the 23 season.
It's the 24 season, my boy.
No, it's the 24 season. I mean, 23 season, right?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Wait, hold on. I gotta check this. Hold on.
The season isn't based off of the year that it starts. It is based off of the year of the championship.
Oh, that's
So this is the
crazy.
this is the 23 to 24 season or the 24 season. So it would be, but it would still be impressive getting 3 MVPs in 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Like
Uh huh.
you're
Yeah.
creeping up on LeBron James territory. You dig what I'm saying? Like where
Hmm.
again where what LeBron won 4 MVP. Wait, no, it wasn't 4 in 5 years. I think it was he
It
won
was.
two. I think he won in
I think it was 3,
I think he won in 07, 08. Then he won again in 11 and
10,
12.
11.
So I think it was what 4 in like 6 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, 3 in 4 years is low key even more impressive, right? Like if you just
Yeah.
if you just stop it right there, the man has 3 MVPs. Like
Hmm.
again,
And
we're
the Finals MVP,
and a Finals MVP, right? Where now we have to really start having some hard conversations, right? Where, for
top
example,
25.
I feel like now you can make that conversation. Like for example,
Mm.
right? A legend of the game, Dirk Nowitzki,
Yeah.
right? Kevin Garnett.
Mm.
You could make the argument that Jokic is the better player all time. More
Yeah.
MVPs, same amount of rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they have more, of the longevity stats, like the all star nominations, because they just
Mm.
obviously they played their
We
full
talking about
careers.
impact on the game,
But
though.
if you're just talking about the big ones, where because obviously as long as Jokic is playing, he's gonna get all star votes, he's gonna get all NBA votes. But
Mm.
again, the champ when it comes to championships, MVPs, he already has passed those guys,
Yeah.
right? Like if Jokic is able to win a third MVP
And another chip.
and another chip, where we might have to have conversations of
Top
maybe
20.
top 10,
Top 10.
maybe top 10,
Ooh. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Because I believe if he gets his third MVP, well, scratch that. Even at 2, he has more MVPs than a player like KD,
Mm-hmm.
right? If he gets his third, I believe he would pass Steph Curry
Mm-hmm.
for more MVPs. Now, obviously, Curry has 4 rings, and if he gets another ring, that would be 2. But
Hmm.
you can make an argument against a guy like Akeem Olajuwon, right?
Yeah.
Where
Hmm.
at the very least that solidifies him as a top 15 player of all time, which is fucking crazy. The fact that honestly, bro, the biggest message of all of this, bro, is and a big part of it is how sports media is. But bro, appreciate these players while we still can
Yes.
watch them, bro.
Yes, man.
Because you're gonna look up in 10 years and they retired, and all you had to show for it was fucking hater tweets on Twitter. You know what I mean? Off of fake pages. It's like, bro, appreciate these players because we're watching all-time greats play right now, right?
Yep.
The players of the next generation will talk about, oh, Jokic is my favorite player. I modeled my game after Jokic or
Hmm.
Luka or whatever. You know what I mean? Like where these guys are on a crazy run right now where with Bron getting older, Curry getting older, K right?
Yes.
Of to be quite honest, when we talk about narratives, when we talk about perceptions coming into the season, right? Especially after the Nuggets won a championship, what was the biggest question? Who is the better player? Right? Who is the best
Hmm.
player in the world? Giannis or Jokic?
Yep.
Right? So it's no coincidence that those are my top two players in the MVP because I just wholeheartedly believe those are the two best players in basketball. But
Mm.
again, they both are tied for MVPs, tied for championships and finals MVPs. Now it's
Hmm.
that race, right? Now we're in the race where okay, who's going to be the first to get a third MVP? Who's going to be the first to get a second championship, right?
Hmm.
And bro, like it's crazy to watch, bro. Like it's crazy
Yeah.
to watch. Again, all these players, all these players have potential to be top 20 players, have
All
potential
time
to be
greats.
all-time greats, right? Like again, even with a Shea, even with a Tatum, right? Where
Hmm.
Tatum he's been so like there you can make a pretty good argument that when it just comes to players of like just having a lot of success, Tatum has to be in that
Yep.
conversation, right? Where yes, he has not gotten an MVP, he has not gotten a championship. We would just talk about impact, right? Coming into an organization and knowing nothing but winning.
Hmm.
Like again, yes, I do have him at 5, but honestly, I feel as though out of all of these players, Jason Tatum is the only one that is making a sacrifice.
Yes.
All of these other players are the clear cut number ones, and they get to do really whatever they want.
Hmm.
Tatum is the only one out of these 5 that have um, two other teammates averaging 20 plus points per game. Right?
Yeah.
So that's shots taken away from him.
Hmm.
Like I don't even think he's top 5 in shots per game. So just imagine if he was really. Like, I'm not saying he doesn't have a green light, but if he was
Hmm.
really getting a green light like all these guys, and again, it's kind of that 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 balance where it's like if you have shitty teammates, you're gonna put up better numbers
Yeah.
and you're gonna be looked at as the more valuable player compared to
Mm.
if you have a lot of good teammates, you're gonna win more. But when it comes to these big awards, your name's gonna be left out because your numbers just don't stack up. But
Yeah.
that's
And
why I'm giving, at least for me, I'm giving Tatum some his flowers because again, the best record in basketball by a very wide margin.
hmm
They are 32-3 at home. That's
it's no
crazy.
competition, man.
The season is almost over, and so far they've lost 3 home games the entire year. Right? Like, and again, his numbers are nothing to scoff at. 27 points per game, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, a half a block. Like if you go back 10 years ago, he might lead the league in points per game. You feel me? Like
Yeah.
obviously the explosion of basketball nowadays, but this is this is what I'm talking about. Where again, the perception, everything where even like he's sacrificing. He's the only one of the top 5 of my top 5, should I say, that is sacrificing
Yeah.
for the greater good. Because he
Hmm.
he sure as hell has the talent to say, "Fuck you, Joe Mazzulla. I'm gonna shoot how many points I want to shoot and average
Yeah.
35."
But hey, man, there's only certain players that can do that, right? But and there's some players that try to do that, Jalen Green. But but you know, uh, but yeah, get into like talking about enjoying basketball, right?
Yes.
I know we talked about MVP ladder, right? But we wanted to sprinkle in about some updates on the March Madness, man. And you know what,
Mm-hmm.
Kai? I know you. We've talked about this in an earlier pod, right? And lo and behold, man, we got Iowa versus LSU Monday, bro. Come on,
Mm-hmm.
talk to me, man.
Listen, bro. This is like you just said. This is what everybody's been waiting for, right?
Yeah,
This is the matchup of all matchups. This is the
biggest one.
matchup of all matchups, man. Like, this is it. This is what everybody has been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody keeps talking about, or some people keep talking about, LSU and South Carolina, LSU, USC, LSU, UConn. Bro,
Nah,
fuck all that.
this one
We
right here,
want
man.
Iowa, right? We listen. We gonna see South Carolina, right? We're gonna see them, but we want Iowa because there's been a lot of talk. And the thing about it is, and the thing that I respect the most about all of this is the fact that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have been nothing but supportive of each other, right? Every single time they talk about each other is nothing but good, but positive words. Is nothing but respect. And
Yeah.
I feel like the internet has pit those two ladies against each other, but they realize, yo, whether they put us against each other or not, we are. This is good for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yep.
good for women's basketball, like
Popcorn.
regardless. And this is the thing where no matter I would not be surprised if this is the highest viewed women's basketball game of all time. I 100%
Yeah.
would not be surprised because I know for hell I'm gonna be watching.
Oh
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Obviously,
Oh
I'm an
yeah.
LSU fan. I'm rooting for my girls, but
Mm-hmm.
this is this is such a clash of play styles. You have LSU that is a lot more team ball.
Physical.
They're
Or.
they're they're bigger. They're physical. Um, that's something that Iowa does lack is just size.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a player in Caitlin Clark that can just go nuclear. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That can drop 40, right? So it's one of those things where even though like I feel like record and all that gets thrown out the window. Both of these teams are
Yeah.
amazing. So when it comes to okay, who's the higher ranking and all that, no, both of these teams have the ability to win, not only win this game, but win the whole tournament. But
Yeah.
again, you have LSU that is, we got three players that each can give you 20, 25.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the contrast with Iowa where they have one player that can drop 50 on you, right? So it'll be very interesting to see how that matches up. Like, obviously, championship rematch, but bro, like this is gonna feed families, bro. Like this is it.
Yep. And like I feel the same way, man. Like guys. Like I don't know if you guys know, but like our usual like recording like sessions are Mondays, right? As one of the
Mm-hmm.
days to start off the week, but we got a game like this. We'll have to see. We'll have
Yeah.
to see, right? Because this is a much watch game, man. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
where you're at. I don't care if you're sleeping. I don't care
You
if
better
you
wake the fuck up.
exactly. I don't care if you're at work. I don't care
You better
if
call the fuck
you.
out.
I don't care if you're taking a shit, bro. Like I
You
don't care.
better pull your pants up, cuz, and turn the TV on. Cause,
That's what I'm
bro, oh my
saying.
god, this is gonna feed families, bro. It's gonna feed families.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just such. I haven't seen a more anticipated matchup in such a long time. And this is
Mm-hmm.
speaking from a person that like doesn't watch college basketball as often as I used to. Right,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. Right, but what stuff like this, like I said, it's good for the sport, man. Like it doesn't matter, man. If you're interested, man, matter if you're a guy, girl, it doesn't matter, man. It's great
Does
for
not matter.
everybody. But you know what? Speaking of like teams and who's gonna be playing in the elite eight. I mean elite four rather. or is it Elite Four? I don't know, but basically the other side of the matchup, other side of the matchup. I love it. I love it, man. I love it. We'll see. We'll see on Monday. But
Mm-hmm.
similarly to LSU versus Iowa, there's a matchup that we also want to see on the other side, man. And we want to see USC
This is
versus
UConn.
UConn,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got Paige Beckers, you got Juju Watkins, and oh my God, talking about Juju Watkins as a freshman, she is putting the whole NCAA women's side
Mm-hmm.
on notice, man.
100%.
She's letting them know that I am here,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, she's leading a USC team to, you know, the um to the final, to the final eight, where like they haven't been there, I believe, in 30 years, and this is
Yep.
as a freshman, right? So there's a good chance that, again, when we talk about appreciating these players, like we're potentially in store for at least 2 more years of Juju Watkins, in college. Like, so I know there's a bunch of people out there that try to discredit, women's basketball, but
Yeah.
man, these ladies can hoop, and
Yeah.
if you're not watching, you're just flat out missing out on
Yes.
really, really good
Yes.
basketball. Like, if you are a basketball fan, you have to be watching. Like,
Mm-hmm.
especially now that we're kind of reaching, that end of the NBA season. Kind of a lot of teams, unless they're like really in that playing spot, they're really
Mm-hmm.
kind of slowing down or whatever. Like, this is perfect timing, right? Where, again, on a like, what a way to start off the week, right?
Yes.
We're gonna, either way, this is gonna be a big talking point, right? Not only on just our podcast, but all over the internet. This is gonna be a movie, bro.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I talked about Juju Watkins, right? But Paige Beckers, I've always been a fan of, man. Paige Beckers, right? Talking about a girl that she's been she's been having injuries the past couple
Mm-hmm.
years, right? And I don't know if you remember, but people were talking about Paige Beckers as the next best thing of
Yes.
women's sports, right? And I think this year she is showing why she was labeled that,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah. She, and obviously no disrespect to Caitlin Clark, she's a fucking bucket. But she
yes,
was Paige Buchers was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark was Caitlin Clark.
yep,
You dig what I'm
pretty
saying? Like,
much,
where
yeah.
she
The
was
hype,
one of the very first players, or one of the more prominent young players that was getting co-signed by Kobe, right?
mm-hmm,
Like, where, like you just said, she was lighting the nation on fire before she had those unfortunate injuries. Where then she comes back and literally, shows, I'm still here. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? Like, where, again, got her team back into the eight, where she can realistically find herself, after this season, going into the draft, being maybe a top 3 pick, maybe being a top 5 pick, and again, that's after
yeah,
such a devastating injury.
mm-hmm,
Where, just like, and that's a whole nother conversation. When you talk about all these girls going to the next level, like, the viewership and the entertainment that these ladies are gonna bring to the W is gonna be second to none, right? Where we talk about, I feel as though right now we're in a moment in time where this is the 80s, right? Where, the NBA was on the verge of bankruptcy, and then
mm-hmm,
they had a stud in Larry Bird enter the league. They had a stud in Magic Johnson enter the league, and the entire sport got revitalized, right?
mm-hmm,
Then you had a player by the name of Michael Jordan, take the torch. Then you had a player like a Kobe Bryant. Then you had a player like a LeBron James. You had a player like a Steph Curry, where it just builds and builds and evolves and evolves. But you need those pioneers, and obviously none of this is possible without, those ladies that, paved the way. But I feel like the girls of today are in a position where they can elevate women's basketball to levels that have never been seen before.
yep. And and honestly, that just goes back to the main point of our podcast, man. Like the main part, especially on this pod, right? It's all about showing love, man. Like we gotta appreciate sports for what it is right now, because like for for lack of a better word, sometimes we take it for granted, right?
Mm-hmm.
We take it for granted. Like not it's not often that you get to see good basketball or just good sports on both sides, men's and women's, in the same calendar year, man. Right? And it just goes to show that you know sports overall talent and everything is evolving. It's evolving
Yes.
all across sports, right? No matter if it's basketball, doesn't matter if it's football. Even like soccer or baseball, all around this or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right? But I think it brings a good time to wrap up the pod. Before we even do that, I just want to give another quick shout out to all you guys, man. Like
Yes.
the Instagram, the TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
it's going crazy, right?
Yeah.
And like we like every day for me to wake up, and that's the first thing I check on. It it just brings a quick early smile to my day, man. Honestly.
100%.
And like it's a little funny thing that like I share with Kai over a text. Where like after we recorded a pod the other day, I looked at our channel stats, right, and you know we're actually getting some women viewers, right, and so it's good to see. It's
Yeah.
good to see
Listen.
that like we have a variety, man.
Listen. We're a channel that's honestly all inclusive, man. Like we don't like as you can see, we show a lot of love to women's sports, man. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, if you can hoop, you can hoop.
Yeah.
So if you're into sports, you're into sports, and this is the right place for you.
Mhm.
And this is something that I believe I said in our very first pod, and it's something I want to reiterate, especially early in the pod where you mentioned you know LeBron James and JJ Redick's new pod, where I feel as though the channel that we're all contributing to, the community that we're all building, it's changing how sports media, sports information is being consumed, where
Mhm.
it's not just, you know, the GOAT conversation 15 fucking times a week, right? It's not
Yeah.
two people arguing and yelling at each other.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
a debate all the time, like where you can
Mhm.
just sit back and just enjoy sports and talk sports and
Yep.
give all these men and women their due justice in terms of giving them their flowers, right?
Mhm.
Unless you're Jalen Green, like that's the only thing, like where everybody is getting their flowers over here at no bullshit. So you know obviously we appreciate you guys for joining this ride. And again, don't think that we stop in here, man. We
Hey,
got
man.
tons of fucking content on the way,
Yes.
a ton of different, ideas and everything that we they know we're cooking up. So, as Cochran said, we're gonna have our Instagram and our TikTok and everything else in the description. Keep
Mhm.
going crazy, keep sharing,
Yes,
keep
sir.
liking, keep commenting. And this has been a no bullshit podcast. We'll catch you on the next one, man.
Yes, sir. Peace.